I know I'd said 2 scene setters, but we just changed it slightly. Russell Norman from the Greens is here and he's going to be on the panel, but we're going to give him the opportunity to set the scene as well. We know the Greens are very concerned about managing scarce resources. The scarce resource we're giving him is 5 minutes to help continue setting the scene for you this morning. So please welcome Russell Norman from the Greens.
Tēnā koutou, thank you very much. I think I just want to add 2 things to what's been discussed already about how we're to frame making the most of the economic opportunities. And I think the first is to think about some old ideas. When I was, I've been here this morning listening to the speeches, I was reminded of the bourgeois revolutions. And the reason why I was reminded of those, I was thinking of the English Revolution, the French Revolution, the American Revolution. Some of the core values in those revolutions were the ideas of freedom and public space. And they were closely connected with the rise of the capitalist economy. And the ability to share ideas and to have the space to share ideas has been critical to the success of this market-based system. And I think that those values of freedom, if you like, and having the space to share ideas are going to be critical to the success of making the most of the economic opportunities around the internet. And so in terms of the principles that should underlay regulation making around the internet, I think that we need to tilt the balance towards freedom. I heard Stephen Joyce's speech yesterday where he talked about the balance between freedom and restriction with patents and copyrights and so forth. And I think that in considering that balance, we really need to move the balance towards the freedom side in order to maximise both the social opportunities and the democratic opportunities, but also the economic opportunities. And whether that's the TPP, which obviously is very heavily influenced by large corporations that are trying to restrict those freedoms, or whether it's the attempt to patent software, those kind of constraints, not only are they constraints on freedom, but they're also constraints on the economic opportunities that are available to us. And so I think in policy making around it, we need to take that into account. The second thing, the second idea that I think is important is a much newer idea, which is about resource constraints. And in understanding the opportunities, I think, that are offered to New Zealand in particular. And those resource constraints affect us in a couple of ways. The first is there's only so many cows you can fit in New Zealand without causing more damage. So the kind of traditional economy on which we're relying at the moment has some real constraints, some physical or biophysical limits. And so we need to look at the other opportunities. And the other one, which has been well canvassed already at this conference, is the tyranny of distance. So the tyranny of distance has... Of course, Geoffrey Blainey wrote the most famous book, but the tyranny of distance is a particular constraint on New Zealand and the New Zealand economy over many years. And the gravity-less exports and broadband and hopefully a second cable across the Pacific provide us, and broadband with ultra-fast broadband within New Zealand, provide us with some real opportunities to get a much more level playing field globally to deal with the tyranny of distance, and also an opportunity to diversify our economy away from some of the elements that we've focused on which face some real biophysical limits. So I think drawing on some of those really old ideas around the value of freedom, both the social, political and economic values of freedom, but also the newer ideas about resource constraints and the economic opportunities that are coming out of those kind of resource constraints. Those 2 key sets of ideas need to inform policy making in order to make the most of the economic opportunities that are provided to New Zealand around the internet. Thank you very much.